The city of San Jose is striving to be an environmental leader. We'll show you ways to improve the environment and what can happen if we don't find solutions to issues we're facing today. On this edition of Equal Time.
From San Jose State University, you're watching Equal Time, exploring new issues each week, giving equal time to competing points of view.
Welcome to the campus of San Jose State University and this edition of Equal Time. I'm your host, Journalism School Director Bob Rucker. What does it mean to go green, and what do people do to reach that goal? Samantha Mendoza introduces us to a student who strives to be a living example of environmental consciousness and speaks to the mayor who's spearheading the city's green initiative.
Every day is Earth Day in the Bay Area. From family members encouraging each other to recycle, to service groups spearheading cleanups, environmental issues are deeply rooted.
I'm really addicted to buying green products. I got this as a gift from a friend. It's made out of some type of recycled material, it says on the
Sombra
tag.
Guerra is a student at San Jose City College. An English major, but her interests encompass the environment.
When I ask someone, do you want to help me recycle something, their initial reaction is, you want me to just recycle bottles. I'm like, no, you can plant a garden, you can stop cutting down a ton of trees, you can do a lot of things to just be green.
Guerra's generation of young adults has grown up appreciating the planet. She takes the bus everywhere.
So putting money in a green project, I think, is what San Jose's main goal should be.
As the innovation capital of the world, San Jose has the opportunity to do things no other city can do, according to Mayor Chuck Reed.
Just because we're surrounded by innovation in Silicon Valley.
With the city's latest plan, Green Vision, San Jose is road mapping its way to becoming what he calls the clean tech innovation center of the world.
We want to reduce our energy consumption by 50%. We want to get all of our energy from clean, renewable sources. We want to become a zero waste city. Most importantly, we want to facilitate the creation of 25,000 clean technology jobs.
Reed has noticed some goals are moving more quickly than others.
We established metrics at the very beginning of this process. We set out a 15-year plan with very difficult but not impossible goals.
Diverting trash from landfills is already 3/4 complete, whereas installing smart streetlights has reached only 4% of its target goal.
San Jose residents benefit by having a cleaner and better and stronger environment. We also benefit from having more jobs and a stronger economy. And this plan is designed to help us do both.
As the 10th largest city in the U.S., San Jose can serve as an urban example.
If we're going to succeed at meeting our environmental challenges, we're going to have to do that in urban settings.
Dr. Lynne Trulio chairs the Department of Environmental Studies at San Jose State. She says urban sustainability is a huge challenge now and into the future, as 80% of the population lives in an urban setting.
A challenge, I believe, for urban sustainability is to try to bring the footprint of our activities into the footprint of the urban center.
While the Green Vision solves many environmental problems, Trulio says the city can do more on other fronts.
I don't see enough focus on habitats and species. We're not the only ones here on this planet as humans. There are lots of other species here. And I think we need to do a better job in cities of integrating natural habitats and the species that live here.
Trulio is a professor here at the Teaching Garden on campus. The garden encourages students to get out of the classroom and think green.
These gardens connect people to their food. They help reduce our food footprint by making our food right here, and they help species and biodiversity.
Students taking classes in sustainable agriculture use the garden. They are able to gain knowledge through hands-on learning and begin to see nature in a new way.
If we don't do anything about these issues, our urban environments and everywhere else will become much more unlivable.
When we come back, we'll look at more ways to go green, showing how the community can use alternative means of transportation to help sustain the environment. Welcome back. We've seen what can be done for the environment on a personal level and on the citywide level. And coordinated efforts are key. Samantha Mendoza shows us how the campus and Bay Area connections are kicking in to make California cleaner.
San Jose State students can take public transportation for free, and many do.
So our primary goal is just to get students aware of the environmental issues that we face, not only as the student body here or on campus, but as a society.
Associated Students Director of Environmental Affairs, Paul Landon, also suggests that students use bicycles.
It's very freeing because you can get to class. We provided bike walks all throughout the campus.
The Associated Students organization is looking into developing a vacant lot near campus and transforming it into a garden.
The goal behind that is basically bringing the community together. So not only are you using it for teaching purposes, but you're getting students involved to see how food really grows.
Landon also says the university is working on installing bike lanes on campus to make it safer for students getting to class and to prevent pedestrian bike collisions.
We feel like students are really catching on to being green and realizing that they need to have that other dependency other than the cars.
We've seen what the campus and the city are doing to help the environment. But throughout the Bay Area, an effort is underway for regional planners to connect and create a strategy for sustainability.
Air pollution doesn't stop at city borders. Water resource issues doesn't stop at city borders. And so therefore our planning shouldn't stop at city borders either.
City Councilmember Kalra serves South San Jose and is also part of the Association of Bay Area Governments. The group has come up with Plan Bay Area, linking regional guidelines to state greenhouse gas reduction goals.
This is being done for grandchildren, great-grandchildren, to make sure that we're planning in a way that's prepared for their lives and their livelihoods and their quality of life.
Kalra says, unfortunately in the past, development just sprawled without a thought about transportation connections.
We know now, given the fact we are going to have millions of more people living here over the next few decades, that we have to prepare for it today. We can't wait, and that requires regional planning.
Kalra says elected officials need to think about the impact regional planning has on the quality of life.
We're doing it so that mistakes of the past aren't repeated, and just how elected officials need to think in terms of planning has an impact on the quality of life of our residents and the wildlife, and a big reason why we come to Silicon Valley and come to the Bay Area, because it's beautiful and we want it to stay that way.
Welcome back to this edition of Equal Time. Our focus today is the green vision for San Jose. Let's meet our guests.
Hi, I'm Lynne Trulio, and I'm chair of the Department of Environmental Studies at San Jose State, and my specialty is wildlife, especially urban wildlife.
Hi, I'm San Jose Councilmember Kalra. I also serve as the chair of the Bay Area Air Quality Management District and vice chair of VTA, as well as a board member for Caltrain, and I certainly have a unique interest in San Jose's green vision and the environment.
My name is Paul Landon. I'm a student here at SJSU through the Environmental Studies Department, and I'm also the Associated Student Body Director of Environmental Affairs.
Hello, my name is Sombra Guerra, and I'm a student at San Jose City College. My main focus is helping the environment and changing it so that we can have a better future.
My name is Samantha Mendoza. I'm a journalism major and the producer of this show.
Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate it. The green vision for San Jose. I'm wondering if the people out there are wondering, what is that? Are we clear on what that is and what's expected? So let's go to the councilman. What's expected of the public?
Well, I think the public needs to be a partner. There's no doubt about that in terms of achieving green vision goals. And there's 10 different goals that were set forth in 2007. They range from job creation to water conservation to planting trees. And I think the public has really responded well to it. And I think the government, at the city side, we need to continue to appreciate that response. And I think that it's always a two-way street. And through the recession, it's been challenging to achieve some of the goals. But as we come out of the recession, I think we have a unique opportunity to really push the green vision as far as we can.
Well, we certainly have some young people here that are hoping jobs will come out of this. There'll be an interest. Paul, I suspect you're hoping that that'll happen.
Yes, very much. So the future for people in my department, for the Environmental Studies Department, we look toward the government especially and what we're doing and what we can do. So through the green vision, we're looking at revamping businesses and other things to better suit the sustainable needs of the city and reduce energy and carbon output.
And Lynn, you're trying to explain this to today's students and future students, help them understand the responsibilities involved.
Yeah, and the responsibilities are huge actually because the environmental challenges facing us today are enormous. And one of the largest, of course, is climate change. And the city's green vision has a number of proactive measures to try to reduce greenhouse gases going into the environment, which is really terrific. That's one of the primary things we need to do if we're going to have a sustainable society in the future. And so I applaud the city for that. I think there are other things that could be in the plan that I sort of feel from a habitat wildlife specialist that and it's not just the city of San Jose. A lot of cities struggle with habitats and species, but there could be perhaps more of that in the plan.
And we'll get into the economics of it as well. But Samantha, why did you want to do this story? Why did you want to do this show?
Well, as I felt just living in San Jose, well, the Bay Area in general, I noticed it's very green. People are very focused on, preserving the environment, making the most best possible. And so I just found out, I felt like a lot of our viewers want to know more information about how we do that. How is it that I think City Hall is one of the greenest buildings? How is that possible? So I wanted to find some experts and students as well who know about that. We could have a discussion on what it means to have a green environment. What is green vision?
And you were telling me before the show that there's a distinction about the urban environment that's different. What was that? What were you suggesting?
Actually, when I was talking to Lynn, she told me a little bit about urban sustainability. Lynn, can you talk more about what you wanted to incorporate with that into the green vision?
Yes, I would like to mention that, but I also want to sort of turn it back to Sabra for a second because she lives in the urban environment and as a student getting around in the urban environment, she has some challenges, so I wanted to.
Our expert.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you, Samantha, for inviting me. As a student, being immersed in the environment, it's sort of hard to kind of adapt to it. There are certain types of elements that I can adapt to easily and other things that are more difficult to adapt to. So for the classes I take right now, I focus on what my major is, but I try to still branch out more so that I can reach to other students that are just my colleagues that I see on a regular basis, or I try to focus it more family-based where it's more intimate, and I can make
What specifically are we talking about in terms of urban perspective?
urban living. Well, I take the bus and the light rail. I take public transportation 5 days a week, maybe up to 7 days a week. So from the time that it takes me to wake up in the morning to go to school, to do homework, to go to a job, it takes an entire day. But I wake up at 6 in the morning and I take public transportation until maybe about 7 at night. And the process of going to school just to go home it hurts my mind.
It's challenging.
It's challenging. It is.
Your community as well.
It is, and I don't have a lot of money. I'm a poor college student, so I can't necessarily afford to buy myself a nice running car. So that's why I use public transportation or I walk everywhere. Sometimes I may have to bum rides from people that I don't necessarily want to, because I'm the type of person that I like to get my own stuff done my own way, and if it's not done my way, or if it doesn't benefit the environment so that it's a positive outlook on things.
Like my mother. I must say, very good.
Someday I sound like my own mother. She taught me well. So I'm not only doing the things that I'm doing for myself, it's for the environment, because I would hope that I would be able to live until my 90s, my hundreds, be one of those people that can go in the Book of World Records, just for being a good person, not necessarily to gain anything out of it. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm just trying to educate people in a way.
Quality life
yes.
at the same time. Lynn, this is the sort of thing that you're trying to get more and more students to think about?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the best things that we can do, so we're saying, what can we do to have a greener city and a greener environment? One thing is to take public transportation. It's one of the best things you can do, and I know that the city is working hard to provide public transportation that gets people around, in an efficient way. It's a challenge for the city. One challenge I feel for cities who are trying to be green is to incorporate habitats for species. To think about other organisms on this planet. We're not the only species here. And it does actually benefit cities and the urban environment to include natural habitats such as stream corridors, and to think about how to include wildlife into our city. So, one benefit by including habitats is cities have an urban heat island effect. Because of all the pavement and asphalt, cities are actually warmer than the surrounding, non-city environment. If you have more natural areas, that can help reduce the heat in the city.
It's interesting. You never think about it in terms of the animals. And the other day I was looking in my backyard and there were these two doves that were sitting on the fence. And I thought, this is really great. And when somebody mentioned to me that's a very culturally positive thing, and I said, yeah, but it's also a very beautiful thing. It's kind of nice to see that. On a college campus, do we spend enough time looking at how the environment affects other creatures, not just humans?
Yes, so we just went over the landscape master plan draft for the campus, and we're actually looking toward moving, getting the, I just forgot the word.
That's okay. You're trying to get people to shift their thinking.
Natives on campus. And so what we've done through a couple organizations on campus, I was a part of the ERC before, and I'm part of AS now, is getting gardens on campus. So what we've done was we planted behind Tower Hall, we planted a native landscape, and we also planted around the AS house a native landscape. And we see the benefit of that. We have the hummingbirds coming, we have natural insects, bees, other type, coming to pollinate the flowers, and it's really beautiful.
And students care about this. Samantha, is that true?
I would agree, yeah. I mean, when you're at school, you're stressed out, you're running from class to class. It's kind of nice to see this garden, and you think, wow, look at these beautiful birds, look at these beautiful hummingbirds, these bees. I mean, yeah, they might sting me, but it's just really, it's really, even better. It's really refreshing, and it feels like you're part of the environment. You're not at school.
So stop and smell the roses and enjoy
Exactly.
it. It helps calm you in a stressful moment. But then we get back to the practical reality. How do we afford all this?
Well, the reality is that how can we afford not to do it? Because at the end of the day, what do we love living in this valley for? What's so great about living in California? And it really is the environment. And that's what's drawn so many people here. This was the Valley of Heart's Delight. And as it's become this burgeoning Silicon Valley, it's still a place that people really appreciate the environment, and it's really great to see the next generation of leadership here by our side talking about the environment, talking about gardens, talking about wildlife. I mean, this is something that is really music to my ears, certainly, and I'm sure to the professor as well, because we want to make sure that they're doing it for the right reasons. It's not just they're taking a class, they're not just doing it to get credit, they're doing it because they realize that this is their world they're inheriting. And so it is challenging though, because you have to remember, San Jose is very different than Oakland and San Francisco. These are older urban environments. They were built more densely early on, over 100 years ago. And San Jose really has been built out over the last 40, 50 years. And it was built out in a very sprawling fashion. So many of us civic leaders are trying to make up for mistakes of the past. And that includes trying to create a transit system in a 180 square mile city and throughout the entire county. And it's proven to be very challenging, but I think we can do it, but we can only do it if people make the conscious choice of using public transit, the conscious choice of skipping, even if they have a car, maybe not driving it every day. And those are tough decisions to make, because the practical reality is that it does take time, it does take energy, it does in some cases add stress. And so the behavior changes really, I think, are the burden of this next generation. They're the ones that are going to have to change the behavior of those of us that grew up here.
Now, I remember my generation saying that we were going to be different. And we hadn't turned out so well in that regard. Some of us do. I enjoy taking light rail, but I also enjoy the freedom of having my car. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. So your generation is going to be very different. You're going to stop buying cars? No, I don't think so.
Probably not. Probably not anytime soon, but I mean, it is always nice to bike. I mean, I live about 10 minutes away driving, so I've really thought about, getting a bike. Even just a cheap bike on Craigslist, that helps, and it's a great way to exercise. It's a great way to not pollute. So I've been interested in that. I mean, it's a good solution.
And is it me, or is it that getting the public to understand, to have a message resonate about the value and the importance of green energy and green energy thinking never seems to codify in the brain. It never seems to take hold as clearly as, garbage is on Thursday and this is done that day. How do we do that better?
Well, one of the main ways to do it better is to price it right. Right now, for instance, people may not want to hear this, but gasoline's too cheap. It's just too easy to fill up your tank.
Don't change channel, please.
Wait, sorry, don't name me that. But the price of gasoline does not include the cost to the environment. It's not including the price we're going to pay from global climate change. It's not including the price that we pay for ozone in the atmosphere and for bad air days. And if gas were more expensive, people would drive less. They would drive where they needed to, but they would find other ways to get around or not drive as much. So that is one of the ways that people respond to that price signal.
But I'm a person who grew up in the Midwest, longed to live in California, got out here, wanted to be able to drive all over. We just hired a faculty member from England. He and his wife absolutely love living by the beach, but they want to get around. They want to use their cars, as well as buses and other forms of transportation. So it's changing behavioral patterns. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not easy, but I do think ultimately we're not going to have much of a choice. We cannot keep on adding more cars to the road. Thankfully, we're seeing more and more electric cars, and I think that's really going to be helpful in terms of our carbon footprint. But the reality is we do need people to get out of vehicles. We do need people riding their bikes. I mean, that has a dual impact of the health benefits that individuals get from doing that, as well as the benefit to the environment. And so we every opportunity we have to kind of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, although that might not be an environmentally friendly way of putting it. We should take it.
Someone who studies birds.
Yeah, and I appreciate the mention of the habitat. The area that I represent includes Coyote Valley, and I've been very protective of keeping that area free from development because of the habitat, because it's a land bridge from the Santa Cruz to Diablo Mountains. There's a riparian corridor with the raptors, different types of bird species. And what I love the most when I've learned more and more about this is there are so many students involved in fighting to keep Coyote Valley free from development and making sure that it's appreciated. And if we want places like that to be appreciated, then we have to get out of our cars. I mean, everything's linked. And I think that it's hard to make that connection, like picking up garbage on Thursdays. It's much harder, and it takes much more effort. But you know, doing the right thing is oftentimes the more difficult choice. Even when it comes to eating, when it comes to grabbing a quick meal at a fast food restaurant, or taking the time to have a garden and taking the time to eat fresh fruits and vegetables, which is also good for the environment. So things that we do that we know are good for ourselves, they tend to be also good for the environment and good for our long-term goals of a city green vision. It can't be done without the individuals that make up our community.
I have a laptop, I have a smartphone, I have a tablet. I use them. Sometimes you get lost, you know, new app comes out, or trending videos. I mean, so there is the benefit though. We are switching here on campus. We're trying to switch to a new technology where we can incorporate textbooks with the course material to bring it all together so that you can have it on your tablet and read it in an easy format. You don't have to carry your own books. So when you use technology the right way, like San Jose State wants to move to, you do see the benefit of having those technologies.
And talking to younger people helps. In other words, high school is great, grammar school is good. Get the message out there earlier. I would think as an educator that's important, to get the word out younger, because they carry the message through the rest of their life.
They do, and they carry the message to their parents. So we have an incredible recycling society. No one gets away without recycling around here. And if you travel to the Midwest and you get off in an airport and they don't recycle, you just go, what planet are you from, right? So, and
wait a minute, Chicago does.
Chicago does. I should not, yeah. And more cities around the U.S. are getting it.
Right.
But we in California really get it. One of the reasons is that kids got that message over the last 20 years, and they told their parents, you got to recycle that stuff. You can't just, you know, the parents are like, whoa, okay, you know, so I got to do that. And so getting to kids, and they get that message right away. And I think one of the things that's happening, and I hope to see that spreading, you know, up through the generations, is the school gardening that's going on. There are a tremendous number of teaching gardens in elementary schools where students are learning to grow some of their food, and I'm hoping they're, and I'm sure they are, taking that home and telling their parents we need to eat organic, we need to grow our own food. And that is a great thing that every individual can do. Whether you live in an apartment or you have a house, you can grow some of your own food or herbs.
Well, I can think of one lady who lives at the White House who would probably say, keep that message coming, because that sounds like a good thing. We're out of time, but I want to thank you all for being here today, and we can do these things. We just have to take time and learn. We thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll come back for another edition of Equal Time.